Hello and welcome to Behind the History. Today we are going behind the history of perhaps one of the most iconic holiday sweets ever invented, the candy cane. According to folklore, this tasty sweet was invented in 1670 by a choir master at the Cologne Cathedral in Germany. The choir master intended the tasty sweet to help keep children quiet during the long Christmas service. He had a candy maker bend the sweet into a shepherd's crook in order to remind the children of the shepherds who visited baby Jesus. Now, early candy canes were very different than the traditional red and white ones we see today. Early candy canes would have been solid white with no stripes. In fact, it wasn't until the 1920s when the candy cane actually received its red and white stripe. Also introduced to the candy cane in the 1920s was its peppermint flavoring. Now, I did some digging on this because I find it hard to believe that candy canes weren't flavored before the 1920s. But every source I have read so far has stated that the candy cane received its peppermint flavoring during the 1920s. However, I looked for early flavors of hard candy, and since the candy cane is in fact a hard candy, it stands to reason that some of these flavors possibly could have been some of the early candy cane flavors. Some of these early candy cane flavors may have included orange, lemon, and peppermint. To make a candy cane, you start by taking corn syrup and sugar and bringing it to a boil. Once the sugar syrup is boiling, you take it off the heat and pour it onto a table for cooling. As the syrup starts to cool, it begins to solidify and become more malleable. It's at this point you can take the candy and roll it into long sticks to form the candy cane. One of the last steps is to make the crook at the end of the candy cane before the candy cane totally solidifies and hardens. This process was done all by hand until the invention of the first candy cane machines. On November 21st, 1921, the Bundt brothers filed the first patent for a candy cane machine. They called it the candy forming machine, a machine that would roll cooling sugar into long sticks, which were then cut into small sticks and then hand bent to form a candy cane. In 1956, a Roman Catholic priest, Gregory Keller, invented the Keller machine, a machine that would totally automate the candy cane making process, including the ever-important bending of the candy cane to form its shape, a process which up until then had been done by hand, but was not efficient as 20% of the candy canes would be broken and had to be discarded. Father Keller did this as a favor to his brother-in-law, Bob McCormick, owner of Bob's Candies, one of the biggest candy cane companies in America. Each year, over 1.6 billion candy canes are sold. Thus, the candy cane remains one of the most iconic holiday treats after all of these years. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining me as we went behind the history of the candy cane. Hopefully, we will have more videos soon, so please subscribe, and thanks for watching.